Anthony Hartwig here. We have a very special kind of piece of content for you guys today. We're being joined by former Hubbard Eagle and now all the way from her journey is now a professional volleyball player in the Deutschland of Germany. Adria Powell. Adria, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You got it. We're going to talk about your whole journey, but of course, we have to start with Hubbard. 2017, you're named OHVSCA Player of the Year, obviously, and you brought such great things to Hubbard and great limelight to that program. Talk about your time at Hubbard real quick and tell us what are some of the things you remember about being a Hubbard Eagle not too long ago.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's been forever ago. I feel like so much has happened since that point in my career, but my time at Hubbard was amazing. I had the best 3 years of high school there. I only spent 3 years there, which I'll get into later, but I think that was really like impactful into my journey into becoming the volleyball player and athlete I am today. I think the entire Hubbard school district and city was a great place to grow up. And the program and coaches and girls I was surrounded with there on the volleyball team were incredible. The girls in front of me, the girls behind me, were all very nice and great girls. And it it was a great environment to fall in love with the sport, and that's where I became hooked to volleyball. Um, and that's when I decided I wanted to go to Ohio State, and um, I decided to leave a year early to go to college for multiple reasons. But even though my time at Hubbard was short and only 3 years, they were still an amazing 3 years. And I think we did some incredible things with that program. I think my first year we were 5-17, and then the next year we were like 17-5. So we flipped that record. And then my final season, my junior year, we were, I want to say, like maybe 19 or something. We only lost like one game, and then we lost our last game in the district semifinals. But we just did incredible things to that program, and it wasn't just me. I mean, my whole class, my last year, we were all incredible athletes, an incredible group, and we did a lot of things. And I'm really proud of how great we became in such a short amount of time and the work we put in. And it's made a lasting impact, as you can see now. I mean, I feel like Hubbard always has a really good volleyball program, so it's cool to be a part of a small piece of Hubbard history.
In that community, you fell in love with the sport of volleyball. Shout out some names and some coaches that you had early on in the Hubbard community that you think helped you fall in love with this sport.
Yeah, well, I have to give a special shout out to my dad, Greg Powell. He coached me in seventh and eighth grade. And then once I got to high school, he was the freshman coach, but he's now the head coach at Hubbard for the volleyball team there. But I mean, he was one of my first volleyball coaches and still tries to coach me up. But he was definitely the most impactful out of all my coaches. But my head coach for the varsity team on Hubbard was Jeremy Porter. He had a great impact on me, and I think he saw a lot of my potential way before I saw it. And Amanda Lingenfelder, she went to Hubbard. She played there. She coaches at Howlands now. But she was my very first, I think she was my very first club coach. And she was very impactful as well.
Do you remember when you started to feel yourself falling in love with the sport and it going from just something that you did for fun to something that you took so seriously and obviously took you to such high places? But when did it click that okay, this is a sport I want to pour that amount of time into and follow my dreams into this sport?
Yeah, I would have to say going into my freshman year is when everything kind of clicked. Before that, in middle school, I was a soccer athlete through and through, and soccer and volleyball season obviously clashed, and that's when I had to make a choice, and I chose volleyball. Thankfully, I'm very grateful I made that decision. But that's when I decided to mostly focus on volleyball as my main sport, and that's when I started to get a lot of attention from colleges. I had my first offer from a D1 school, YSU, in eighth grade. So that's when it kind of opened my eyes to like, oh wow, like I can continue playing after high school, and that was only the beginning. I had no idea all of the opportunities I was going to have access to. But yeah, that's when I decided to switch to Infinity to start playing there for club, and it's a little more serious than the other clubs I'd played for in the past. So I got a more serious club team, which helped me get recruited by bigger schools, and that's just kind of how that went.
People in the recruiting process now don't understand the wild, wild west that it was back, when you were in eighth grade. Like you said, you had an offer in eighth grade to a college. Talk about
Yeah.
this recruiting process and what it was like going through that before you even stepped foot on a high school team. You had offers from schools, Division I schools, saying, "Hey, we'd like you to come and verbally commit." Like, what was that like going through a process like that doesn't even exist anymore?
Yeah, I mean, it was a crazy time back then. Um, I mean, being so young and getting an offer, I mean, there was a lot of self-doubt in myself. I was like, me and my parents like, "Are you sure? Like, I still have so much time to develop. Like, what if I don't keep getting better? What if I peak too early?" And there was a lot of doubt there, and it's scary because, thankfully, the YSU coaches didn't put pressure on me, but a lot of other universities and colleges will put pressure on you to make decisions fast and to fill up spots so they can, well, if they don't get you, they want the next best person or athlete. So a lot of colleges do put pressure on you, and it's stressful because, I mean, you're 4 or 5 years away from going to college and reaching that point. So you don't know what you want to do with your life. You don't know what you want to major in or what type of college environment you want to go to, or do you want to stay close to home or far away, and just like what you're looking for. So there's a lot of unknowns in that point, which adds a ton of extra stress and pressure. But I mean, when we would go to club tournaments, I mean, in eighth grade, freshman year, sophomore year of high school, I mean, our one volleyball court is surrounded by like tens of coaches, like tons of college coaches just watching, and they're everywhere. And it's very intimidating to see like all of like the logos on the shirts and the hoodies as you're walking by, and you're so young, and there's a lot of pressure to perform in those moments. And even though we are young girls, like you have to play well. There's a lot of competition, and it's a lot being that young and having to send like hundreds of emails. I sent so many emails every single night and every single week to colleges, letting them know I'm going to be in this city and my team is playing in this tournament at this time on this court. And they would be asking for phone calls and asking me to come to different camps in the summer, and but all of the colleges have their camps at the same time. So it was wild back then.
A little bit more under control now in the recruiting. Thankfully, we don't have seventh and eighth graders thinking about college yet.
Yeah.
Um, let's talk about your decision. Ohio State, is the one that you fell on, and like you said, you left Hubbard 1 year early to go start your career at Ohio State. Just go through everything that went into that decision. What made Ohio State feel like home to you, and then obviously the decision to go in and leave high school a year early and to start your career at Ohio State as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it was kind of a no-brainer once I stepped foot onto Ohio State's campus. I knew that that was where I was gonna go. Um, I mean, just being from Ohio, I think Ohio State just kind of like a dream that if I had the opportunity to play there, of course I would take it. There was obviously a lot of like doubts and like stressors of like, oh, well, am I good enough to be there? I was a big fish in a small pond, kind of coming from Hubbard in this area, but now this is like the Big Ten, which is the best conference in all of the nation for college volleyball. So there was a lot of what ifs, but I decided to go for it, which is always my motto of like, why not? No regrets. But the coaching staff there, I went through two different coaching staffs during my 5 years at Ohio State, and they were both amazing. The ones I got recruited from, Jeff Carlston, I still have a relationship and talk to him to this day. So he's a great guy, a great coach. And he really created a great family environment at Ohio State, which me and my parents loved. Of even before I was there, we would always be traveling down to Columbus to meet with the current team and grow those relationships. So you were really like a family there. And then obviously everything else Ohio State has to offer, from the facilities, how volleyball gets treated there, and all the other sports, specifically women's sports. We get treated very well there, from charter flights and the amount of gear we get and the meals and the hotels and just all the extra stuff was a great bonus. And then, I mean, the academic side of it, I wanted to go pre-med and I was a biology major. So they had the program I wanted. And obviously, Ohio State has some great academics there. So I feel like everything was just like a no-brainer of like, why not? Ohio State's just amazing. And then talking about why I decided to go a year early. I remember it was in the middle of my volleyball season my junior year of high school, and I was already committed to Ohio State. And one day my coach was like, "Oh, like can we talk on the phone one night?" And I was like, "Sure," which we did. It was a common thing to do just to keep up a relationship, just to see what's going on. And he brought up that idea of like, "Hey, like we would like you to graduate a year early from high school and come to Ohio State because they had a ton of injuries. So they were down really bad with the numbers and barely had enough to play. And there was an opening spot for my position. So I would get a ton of extra training and like playing time my freshman year, which is hard as a freshman. So I was very like in the beginning of my mind, I'm like, there's no way I'm doing this. That's crazy. Like, I would never do that. I want my last year. I'm not ready yet. And the more I thought about it, I was like, well, there's nowhere else better to train in the country than the college I'm about to go to. So why not go do it? No regrets again, like I said. So um, I decided to do it. And I think it was the best decision I've ever made. And I don't regret it whatsoever. I mean, honestly, I didn't miss much in high school. Um, the only thing I really missed is, well, I didn't even miss that I got to go to prom. So still came back and did that. But the class I ended up joining, the grade above me, they ended up being my best friends, and
Mhm.
we had a great season my freshman year. So
And then yeah, you still had to have a senior night, right? So you still got to have a senior night and senior night.
yeah, yeah.
What about the Hubbard community when you made that decision? In the volleyball team, the players that you spent that time with, what kind of support did they give you? Like, hey, you got to make this decision. This is right for you. What were the conversations with them like when you made that decision?
Yeah, I mean, I think they were very supportive at the time. I think I was trying to be more quiet about it because
Mhm.
at the time I was still like unsure and it didn't even like feel real to like, oh, well, this is going to be my last season in high school. So, I mean, I think I was more like reserved about having those conversations with them. But when it did come up and when I did mention it, they were very supportive and had my back and were like, yeah, like that's amazing. Like you go follow your dreams, you go do you. So I'm very thankful that they were by my side throughout all of that. But I distinctively remember after we lost, and it was like my last high school game in Jefferson, and like just could not stop crying, like
Mhm.
sobbing because like just couldn't believe it was over. And I was just hugging my dad, and I was like, wow, it was crazy because it didn't feel real. It felt like I would still have another year, and it was all just like a dream, or like, oh, I actually do have another year. But yeah, but everyone was very supportive in the moment, and it just made it a lot easier.
All right, so you go to Ohio State your freshman year. You start 20 out of their 32 matches. You finish with over 100 kills. What was it like going from Hubbard, Ohio, to all of a sudden the biggest conference in volleyball? You're playing the big names in volleyball. You're playing Penn State, Wisconsin, Nebraska, et cetera, et cetera. What was that jump like, and how did you manage to go and make an immediate impact as a freshman?
Yeah, that jump was it was wild. I was definitely just thrown in, and I turned 17 like 2 weeks before I was on campus, so I was very young. Um, and I think a lot of it was just I was so clueless to what was happening, where I just went in with like no thoughts, just like no expectations, which I just think was better. Of like, hey, I'm just gonna go in there and work really hard. And the position that our team was in of like not having enough players, it's like I didn't have any other choice. I had to play. I had to be out there and help my team out. So there was no one on the bench saying, well, like, oh, well, if I do bad, then they can just come in and they'll do good and help the team. Like I had to find a way and had to figure out a way to perform and get better for my team because they were depending on me. It was definitely an eye-opening experience. I remember my very first Big Ten game was at Wisconsin, sold out crowd, and I get thrown in there and I matched up against a girl who is 6'10 and now she's on the national team. And I was like, oh my, this is Big Ten volleyball. This is what it's gonna be like for the next however many years. And that kind of showed me of it's intense. It was our first year we didn't do well in the Big Ten, but it definitely helped all of us grow a ton and figure out ways to win because at that level everyone has talent, but it's like you need to learn how to win and we definitely had to learn how to win because it was a struggle for the first couple of years, but we had a ton of fun and we made a lot of memories. I just think a lot of us got to try out different positions and try out new skills, and we had that freedom because there were no expectations on, oh well, we should win this many games because of our situation. So we had a lot of fun and we got a lot better at volleyball. So
That last year in Ohio State, 2022, you make that deep tournament run. You lead the team in blocks. It feels like everything's coming to fruition. Talk about that last year at Ohio State, what it meant, especially after the COVID year and not playing in 2021, and what it meant to you to finish your fifth year at Ohio State with a strong 2022 and making that really deep tournament run.
yeah, I mean that last season at Ohio State, I think I'll cherish forever. I think it is and it will forever be my favorite season of volleyball and my favorite team I've ever played with. Um, that team and that group of girls, I can honestly say that every single one of us were best friends. We were all very close. There was no issues. We were a very tight knit group, and we had been playing together for many seasons. Very experienced. My senior class, I think there was 5 of us, and we were all starters, multiple All Americans in that group, and it was just when we were playing together, we were having so much fun, and there was very minimal pressure when we were playing. So it just made it very easy to win and perform and do well together. And we just knew each other like the back of our hand. Like we had a connection that is undescribable, and it just made it so fun to go out there and play the sport that we love, and to be able to set all of those records and make it that far in the tournament was just something that we had been chasing since my sophomore year and their freshman year when that class came in. And it was just achieving our dreams to make it that far, because a lot of the media and people were talking about, oh well, they can't get past the Sweet 16 because we had been stuck in that round the past 2 seasons. And even we were a little bit doubtful of like, oh well, can we do it? Like, will we be able to finally get past it? And when we did and we beat Minnesota to go to the Elite Eight, it was just such a weight lifted off our shoulders. And it was just the best feeling in the world. And it just felt like nothing could stop us. And I'm just so grateful for that entire season and that team and everything that we experienced that last year, because it was incredible.
And then because of COVID, you have one more year of eligibility, so you get to go graduate from Ohio State and then start your graduate program and have one more year to play volleyball. And you decide to go to Clemson in the ACC, which, for those people that don't know volleyball or don't know the college world of volleyball, it's like the conference is up and coming, right? It's a
Mhm.
Big Ten's the big monster. They've been the big conference, but ACC volleyball trying to knock on that door. So you go to Clemson. What was that decision like? What drew you to Clemson, and what was the deciding factor into picking up your bags and going to the ACC?
Yeah, well, I think number one, you kind of mentioned on it a little bit, but the ACC is, I would argue, is the second best conference for volleyball in the U.S. So they have Pitt, Louisville, Georgia Tech, really great teams in there, Miami, Florida State. So really good competition. If you're not going to be in the Big Ten, I'd want to be in the ACC. And when it came to choosing Clemson, I mean, I think there was a couple different factors in there. I think number one being the coaching staff there. Jackie Simpson Kier, my head coach there, she's incredible. I mean, having the conversations we did when I was getting recruited there, I mean, I asked all the questions you could possibly think of, making sure that wherever I'm going to go, I'm going to be happy and I'm going to enjoy my time there. And we would end up talking for hours upon hours of just, we ended up talking about life outside of volleyball and just things that we both had in common. And she just became a really good friend, and someone very trustworthy. And we still have a really close relationship. So she was definitely one of the biggest pieces of why I chose there. And just even her knowledge for volleyball. Very smart coach, knows a lot about the technique, and wants to help you outside of volleyball. She had a lot of information and connections to the professional volleyball world, which is obviously was a dream of mine at the time. So she played pro for a couple seasons. So I knew that if I want to play pro, I'm going to need all the help I can get in wisdom and guidance. And I knew that she could provide that. So that was very attractive in Clemson. And then at Ohio State, I was kind of just like one of the pieces in like a big unit of like very strong personalities. I was obviously a leader, but more of a lead by example and hard work type of person. But I kind of wanted to be that lead by voice, be that strong leader, and kind of take on a new role wherever I went. So I knew Clemson was looking for that. They were looking for a strong, powerful leader that can help them reach a new level for their program. And historically, Clemson has kind of been mid level in the ACC. And I knew that I had a lot of experience and wisdom to help give their young team through my time at Ohio State. So I wanted to see what I could do, what I was capable of. I've watched great leaders at Ohio State my entire career, and now I wanted to take what I learned from them and apply it at Clemson. So that's what I try to do. And then besides that, just the university itself of Clemson, obviously in South Carolina, so it's a little bit warmer. And it's more of a country type of vibe. So I wanted something completely different than Ohio State for my last year. And so I just went for it and I loved my time there. So
All right, so now why you're here, of course, is because you went from Clemson and your professional volleyball dreams have officially come through. You go to Germany now, and you're there. You've been there for like what, a little over a month.
yes, yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's go into how this opportunity came up for you, and what the road has been like to get to Germany.
Yeah. So it all started back in last fall during volleyball season, my last season at Clemson. Um, Jackie, my head coach there, she helped me a ton throughout this whole process. I was kind of clueless going into it of like, where do I even begin? Obviously, I have former teammates of mine that are playing pro, but it just completely different when you actually start to step foot into that world. So I had a couple agents reach out to me on my own, and then there were some others that reached out to Jackie, my head coach. So she kind of went through and she actually talked to them all on the phone and kind of did like pre-interviews before you even got to me, and she asked them all these questions because she knew like what to look for and what to ask with them. So she kind of like pre-screened them all, and then after that she came to me and she had it all like organized and written out of like, hey, these agencies are the best. They're going to have the best connections, the most contacts to teams and clubs over in Europe, or these teams deal with more people in Asia. And so she laid it all out for me, and then I had conversations with two different agents, my top two, and then I ended up choosing one. So now I'm with Image for Sport. So I had my agent who I signed with as soon as season was over, and I had a couple conversations with him throughout my season. But you can't sign until you're done playing. And then once season is over, then your agent can start looking for clubs for you to play for. Um, so I talked a lot about what I wanted in a club. I mean, for this first half season, I knew I wanted to go for a couple months because their season runs from like August all the way until May. So I wouldn't get to go until my season was over. So I'd only be there for a couple months. And so I wasn't too picky about what I wanted. I knew I was going to be switching positions. So I was a middle blocker in college, and now I'm a right side hitter. So that was going to be very different and challenging. So I kind of told him, like, I'll go anywhere in Europe. I'll go anywhere that will take me. I just am along for the ride. I will be learning this first half season, so I'm down for whatever. So he had a bunch of interest from me. He would always contact me and tell me, hey, like, there's a team in Finland that's interested. There's a team in Greece or Italy, and the different leagues and what leagues are the best and what leagues or what the team is like and the coaches are like. And so he was giving me all this information. And then I heard about a team in Zool, Germany, which is where I'm at now. And Germany is one of the best leagues in the world. I would say it's top five. So really good league, great coach. And my team is top five in the league. So we're not only in the best league, but one of the top teams in the league. So a really good opportunity. And I was like, for sure, like I'm down, I'm in 100%. And Germany is a great country. I mean, I didn't really know a ton about it, but I'd never been there before. But I know it's very centrally located, close to a bunch of other countries for travel wise. So just kind of no regrets, YOLO, hopped on a plane, came over here. And I mean, I'm not going to lie, it was very challenging the first couple of weeks, very hard to adjust just to the time change and the practice schedule. Even the type of volleyball they play over here is very different than what I was used to, in a whole other level. All of the athletes are insane and incredible. So it's been a great environment to learn and get better from. But I would say now I absolutely love the life here, and I love being a professional volleyball player, and my team is great. All of my teammates are amazing, and we're so welcoming. And yeah, I'm loving life right now. So I'm very happy with my decision.
So you were able to say YOLO, just gonna go to Germany, no regrets. The decision that you made to go to Ohio State early was kind of like that same thing, where you just said, you know what, no regrets. I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna go to Ohio State. Gonna go there early. Did that decision help make these decisions a little bit easier? The fact that you've been in that kind of situation where you had to make decisions that were just like, hey, you know what, YOLO, as you say. Um, did
Yeah.
those decisions earlier on in your career make it easier for you to just say, hey, you know what, I'm gonna hop on a plane, go to Germany, and may the best things happen for me?
Yeah, I would say 100%. I think that's like a life motto of mine and something that I try to always follow, just go for it. So I think because I'm always used to like just going for it and it's always worked out pretty well for me, that it made this decision very easy for me. Like I knew it was only going to be a couple months. I told myself, even if you have the worst experience and it's terrible, you're going to be back in May, so you can survive 2 or 3 months. Like you'll be fine, Adria. So I mean, that's even kind of what I did with Clemson. I mean, it was very far from home, which is very different than I was used to being at Ohio State. And I was just kind of like, hey, just why not? So it's always worked out, and that's just kind of what I did here. And I'm not really homesick anymore. I'm very used to it now, and yeah, it's been great.
Had you been outside of the country much before this? Like, had you had experience outside of the United States?
Yes. So at Ohio State, my sophomore year, we went on an international tour to Brazil and Peru over the summer in 2019, I think. So I went to South America, and then this past year at Clemson in 2023, we went to France, Croatia, and Bosnia for 2 weeks. So
So obviously cultures are different outside the United States, and now you're living in a different culture. The way people act are a little bit different. The way you go about life is a little bit different. Are there any culture shocks that you've experienced so far with transferring from being in the American culture to now you living in the German culture?
oh, where do I begin? I mean, it was very different. I remember just getting off the plane and I had no idea even where to go. There was no English on any signs anywhere. I felt like no one spoke English where I was at the time, and I didn't even know how to get to my coaches who were waiting for me in the van to take me to my city. It was crazy just from the beginning. When I stepped off the plane into Germany, I was like, wow, this is completely different. But I think in my city specifically, I'm in a smaller town of Germany, so the population is a lot older, and the older generation doesn't speak a lot of English. So
Mhm.
it's mostly just German here. So, oh, I apologize. Sorry, I had an alarm set. But yeah, there's very minimal English here. So I'm trying to learn German as best as I can, but it's very difficult. So we try to just use a lot of like Google Translate and pointing and like hand signals. I mean, the food is very different, but I think it's really delicious, and I think it's way healthier than the food in America. I mean, I just feel like everything, the way that their lifestyle, I feel like it's Germans are very different than Americans. I mean, I don't know just where I've been so far. I don't want to speak for all of Germany, but um, they were kind of very like cold, I guess you could say.
Mhm.
I'm a very like outgoing, like happy, smiley person, and I feel like no one really smiles back if you're just like walking around. I mean, they're very nice if you actually like need help, but yeah, I feel like just everything, every part of life is very different. I mean, even driving here, I have a car here, and it's pretty stressful to drive for me so far because the signs are different. They're all in German and everything's in kilometers. And I'm like, I don't know what that means. Or like, even when I'm lifting weights, it's in kilograms and not pounds. So, yeah, I feel like every aspect of life has been very different. But I've gotten used to the change so far. So,
Have you driven on the Autobahn yet?
yes, I
That's got
have.
to be
And it is.
stressful because you can just go as fast as you want.
Yes, I remember when my coach, that's we were driving on the Autobahn to, like, my city from the airport, and it was a 3-hour drive, and he was flying on the Autobahn, and we were going so fast, and I just saw on the speedometer, like, the kilometers per hour. I didn't know what that like, translated to in miles per hour, but I was like, we're going, like, so fast, and we were weaving in and out of cars, and they're crazy drivers here, And I remember like texting my mom and I was like, I'm not even going to make it to my city. Like, I'm scared we're going to crash. So yeah, they're wild drivers here and the Autobahn's crazy. So I try to steer clear of that part of driving
Yeah, it's
here.
pretty much if you're gonna go in the fast lane, you better be going fast,
Oh yeah,
because that
very
is that you can. There are speed limits, but it's very loose, and you can
yeah.
floor it if you want to go on the autobahn in Germany.
Oh yeah.
So last thing, just to bring it full circle, I want to go back to things you learned in the Hubbard community that you still carry with you. If you had to take, things that you think you still have that are like in your DNA from Hubbard that you carry everywhere you go, what are some things that you think that, just, you know, exude I'm from Hubbard when you're wherever you're going?
That's a good question. I think when I think of Hubbard, I think of like community and like family. So I'm not really sure if that answers your question directly, but I think being from Hubbard, it's such a small town that everyone knows everybody, and you kind of sort of become a family with whatever pocket you're in Hubbard. So whether that's the grade you're in, the sports and the activities you're in, your church, your family that lives there, like you just become really tight knit with the people that you're surrounded with, and you're kind of like you're the Hubbard people, like you have grown and become that tight knit group. And I think having groups like that in a circle like that is so impactful and important in your life to have like success in your journey. So I think wherever I've gone, whether that is Ohio State, Clemson, and now Germany, I'm always trying to find like my group of people that I can trust and that I can lean on and help me get through whatever I'm going through. So I think I learned that from a really small age of like the importance of family and friendship and a tight knit community and surrounding yourself with great people. So that's what I always try to do here. And I think yeah, I don't know. Wherever I go, people are always asking me, "Oh, where are you from?" And yeah, it's very easy to say, "Oh, Youngstown, Ohio," or
Mhm.
I'm an hour outside of like Pittsburgh and Cleveland, but I always say Hubbard, Ohio. They might not know where that's at, but I'm always representing Hubbard. And I even my first weekend here at our home game in Germany, I said Hubbard, and one of the announcers actually knew where Hubbard was. So Hubbard is represented
There you
in South
go.
Germany. So, yeah, it's a small place, but it holds a very special place in my heart.
Make people Google it.
Yeah,
Make them
yeah.
discover where Hubbard is. Um, I
Yes.
want
Oh, yeah.
I want to give you the opportunity to give some advice out before we let you go. We have a volleyball player in the area that is committed to Pitt. She's from
Mhm.
Crestview. Abby M.
Abby. Mhm.
Going to Pitt, doing the same thing you're doing. Back in Hubbard, going from small town volleyball to all of a sudden, big ACC, one of the best volleyball programs in the country. What's some advice that you can give her to prepare for that and to be able to go to Pitt and to have a successful career there?
Yeah, well, first off, I've talked to Abby many times. I go to Infinity, which is her club, all the time with my dad to practice and to help coach them. So I've known Abby for a while, and she's an amazing athlete. She's going to absolutely crush it at Pitt. So, yeah, she's a great girl, and I wish her nothing but the best at Pitt. I think she's going to do great things there with that program, and that staff is great. So, I wish her all the best. But I would just say to always go for it and to not let fear hold you back from anything, and just yeah, have that YOLO mindset of
Mhm.
yeah, I think it's very easy being from small towns like Crestview is a small town, Hubbard's a small town, like to be used to your comfort zone and to be used to like having things a certain way. And it's scary to go to a new city and go to a big program like that. But just to push yourself out there, like speak up when you have the chance. I remember I was so quiet as a freshman, but speak up whenever you can. Push yourself outside of your comfort zone, try new things, go for it, take big swings and big moments. And you might fail epically, but eventually you will succeed. And that's just going to help you grow and become a great player. So, yeah, I would just say go for it, work your butt off, and put your head down and keep grinding and working hard. And eventually the success will come if you just, yeah, stay true to yourself and work hard.
Adria, you say small part of Hubbard history. I say one of the most successful athletes to come out of Hubbard. Not too many people have gone pro, and you're definitely one of them. I could be wrong. First pro volleyball player to come out of Hubbard. Um, Thank you so much for the time. We appreciate it. We're so proud that you're continuing your dreams. And if you need anything from me here back home, let us know. We'll get you hooked up. Once again, thank you for your time, and we appreciate it. And good luck in the rest of your time down there in Germany.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.